and welcome to Finextra. I'm Hannah Wallace, and joining me now is Anthony Walton from Iliad Solutions, and we're going to be discussing payment testing. Hello Anthony, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Firstly, setting the scene, many would agree that banks and financial institutions can no longer put payment testing on the back burner and should be taking it more seriously. Would you say this is definitely the case, and if so, why?
Yeah, I think even the most casual observer will have noticed in the last month how important it is to keep your systems up and running. Perhaps even more importantly from a value point of view, keeping out of the news. I think the first thing to stress is banks, card schemes and processors do take testing very seriously. This is a very well established industry. Traditionally across the board, people have grown with testing, systems have grown, but perhaps the payments industry now is facing more challenges than it ever has done. Obviously you have to keep up, there's not a lot of challenges coming into the market. There's legislation change, PSD2 for example, a move to faster payments in America, immediate payments as they call it. So this means that banks, processors, card schemes have got an absolute avalanche of work coming their ways. And they're also challenged by the way that software is developed. You know, in the old days, you'd develop something for 6 months, you'd have 6 weeks to test it, and it wasn't that great. A lot of our customers now using DevOps and Agile techniques, maybe getting 3 or 4 code drops a week that they have to test continuously. And that really challenges the status quo in the way that people have tested for the last 20 years, and it really, really has to change.
All right, and following up from that quite nicely then, how can this be achieved? Is it a matter of just throwing more people at it?
I mean, more people always helps. There's perhaps better ways of doing it these days, and I think the days of being able to just throw more and more bigger and bigger test teams at a problem are perhaps over. I think a lot of people find solace in, you know, we've got more testers, we've got more test cases. It doesn't necessarily give you the coverage that you hope it will. Perhaps it's the time to be more focused, concentrate on testing frameworks. By framework, I mean something that can be used again and again and extended and replayed and adapted, and you're collecting all the evidence of your testing. You know, one of the recent investigations into a failure just identified a very simple point, that there's no way of evidencing that testing had been done. And if you throw people at that and they're not collecting the information in the right way, or in a way that's consistent that you can quickly pull together to get an overview, a picture of what you are testing, that can be very, very complicated. So the short answer is not perhaps the best way to solve the problem is throw more and more people at it.
And finally, what advice would you give to other organisations looking to take a different approach to payment testing?
I think it's important just to, you can never do this, but stand still for a second. Just think about where you are, what you're trying to do, and think of the consequences of failure without not being able ever to sleep again on a night. But I think, you know, again, recent events have shown you how important social media are in the reporting of failures. The news networks seem to love this kind of thing. So if you think about the consequences and then think about how you're trying to address this, primarily that's through testing. If you start looking at better processes, better use of test platforms, general use of technology that reflects the way your software is being built these days, how it's being deployed, what markets you're trying to address. As you know, banks, for example, are being hit left, right and centre by challenger banks who are just trying to take a little piece of their business. You know, so a bank wants to do that, but can they test that within their existing framework as securely as they'd like? So I think it's very much a matter of taking stock, figuring out the real cost of failure and costing that against some investment perhaps up front to try and do things differently. But fundamentally, just to take this seriously, use the best technology you possibly can, and use that as a starting place.
Some good advice there. Anthony, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.